evening, and thank you so much for finding time to be with us on MBCI TV, our dear viewer. Tonight, you're watching the program Ask the Ministers of God, a program where we bring you servants of God to help you make sense of quite a number of topics, some of them which may be of challenge to you. And therefore, tonight, we've prepared for you a very, very captivating and robust conversation. We want to look at the interrelationship between the mind, the heart, the spirit and the soul, especially in Christian or in spiritual context. What do these elements stand for? Thank you so much. You can join us on our Facebook page, that is MBCI TV, and you can drop a comment or two. We'll be glad also to see how you interact with us in this particular conversation. And just before we get to the meat of the talk, let me introduce my guest. I want to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves and also to say hi to you, our viewer. Karibuni sana. Thank you so much for making time to be with us. Let me start with the lady just close to me. You can introduce yourself and say hi to our viewer tonight. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much. My name is Florence John. I fellowship with the House of Refuge in Nyeri, somewhere in Kingongo, under the leadership of Apostle Dan Geshimo and Reverend Nancy. Welcome our viewers.
Thank you so much, Florence John. Karibu sana, and we appreciate you for making time to be with us on tonight's show. Our second guest, Karibu sana, also to say hi to our viewer.
Thank you so much. So my viewer, my name is Evangelist Paul Kafata. I also fellowship under the leadership of Apostle Dan Geshimo in a House of Refuge Inspired Ministry, and he is our spiritual father. Thank you.
Karibu sana, Evangelist Paul. It's also a pleasure to have you tonight. These are the servants of God that will help us to tackle this particular topic tonight. Remember, you can interact with us. Let me just start with you, Paul. Evangelist Paul, when you're talking about the mind, the soul, the spirit, and even the heart in the Christian context, are they one and the same thing?
Well, my view concerning this, of course, it's good to start right from the Word of God and the view that is given by the Word of God. Because in the Genesis story of creation, when God created man, there is the aspect whereby God just took dust and composed man in his own in his own image. And that aspect of where God is taking dust and forming a human being, it brings the aspect of the body. Okay. And then he breathed to that which he created, brings in now the spirit. And then you see that whatever he breathed into, then it had life. So it brings in the aspect of the spirit. Okay. They serve different purposes, all towards the well-being of a Christian. So in one way or the other, they may be different, however the functioning a little bit different, but the main goal is they lead to the well-being of a Christian. Yeah.
They lead to the well-being of a Christian. Florence John, what is your take on how the four interconnect in a person's life?
To me, what I know is that the soul stands for the inner man, the inner person. Then we have the heart. The heart is where emotions are. That is why sometimes I'll feel like I'm happy, I'm angry. That is the heart to me. Then there is the mind, where is the thoughts. But all of them, they work together. Even in the medical field, they usually tell us that a human being, if we talk of good health, we are talking of spiritually, physically, and emotionally. Mentally, somebody is okay. Spiritually, you're following a spiritual church, and also physically, you're right. That is my take for the three of them. And when Jesus was talking about them, he told his disciples, it is good for you to love the Lord with the whole of your heart, your soul, and your mind. So he expects the three of them to be there. You cannot love God with your mind, and your soul is not there, and your body is not there. If you have to be a holistic Christian, you have to have the mind, the soul, and the spirit together. They work together. Yes.
The wholesomeness of it. So, yes. As she puts it, Evangelist Paul, there is no situation whereby, as a Christian, maybe you can say that you are healthy in the spirit and not healthy in the heart. You are healthy in the mind, you're not healthy in the soul. Both of them must go together. And if one is, or if one misses the point, maybe the others are also affected.
Yeah, sure they are. Now, it's good to view it this way. because the intention here is also to help our viewer.
Right.
Concerning the aspect of the soul, to help our viewer fully understand the whole concept about the mind, the body, the spirit, and everything, I normally view the soul as media. It's a point of recipient. It receives from the mind, and then it passes whatever it has received from the mind to the spirit. That simply means if the mind has a problem and it receives the wrong information, or rather it gets defiled, for that matter, the soul will just receive that which has come from the mind. And then the soul is going to transmit that to the spirit. Back to your question, if therefore the mind has a problem, it will pass over the problem to the soul. And the soul will in return pass over the problem to the spirit. However, at the spirit level, the spirit may choose to take back, to receive that information from the soul, and absorb it, or it may reject. For instance, if the mind has captured something wrong or something which can defile, it will pass it over to the soul. The soul does not have power to choose. It will just pass it over to the spirit. But the spirit, because the spirit is the aspect in a Christian that connects with the Father. So the spirit, if something is unrighteous, the spirit would automatically reject, and it will pass back that information to the soul. Because in the soul, we have the aspect of even the emotions, the aspect of the will, which causes a person to take action. So if there's something which is wrong with the mind, it automatically translates that problem to the soul and then to the spirit. And that is why various writers, even in the Bible, they were very keen when talking about the mind. For instance, in the book of Romans, I beseech you, brethren, that you may not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but renew your mind. So the journey starts at the mind. As a Christian, we have a duty to take care of our mind. Because if you are not careful, we shall translate a chain of problems, which is going to cause a crash in the spirit. And that one results to a situation whereby you feel a Christian is saying they are feeling kind of heavy in the heart. Others develop even mental problems because there's a crash somewhere. Yeah.
Wow. A very interesting angle there. And Florence John, just to pick here from Evangelist Paul has left, when you look now at the mind, if you could even first of all concentrate on the mind, how does a Christian therefore have maybe the power to determine? Because as Evangelist Paul puts it, that is where it begins, and whatever it is that maybe you have from the mind, it will be transferred to the soul, subsequently even to the spirit. Does one have now the ability, the capacity to influence whatever is it that is going to come to their mind or not, so that they be affected either positively or negatively?
Yes, I believe that all of us have a responsibility of taking care of your mind, because anything that goes to the mind interprets it. And if you feed your mind with trash, then you can be sure that trash will enter your soul, and finally things will not be the same. So it is important to make sure what I'm watching, because our eyes are the gates whereby those things enter in our mind. Before that thing is interpreted in my mind, I should make sure that what my mind is interpreting is the right thing. Because as we can see, most of us, what we usually, after death, what goes to judgment is the soul, not our body. But it is our body that is sinning, you see. And those sins, mostly they start from our mind. So we are supposed to take care of our mind. And I believe that is why Paul was saying, renew your mind with the word of God. Because every time you renew your mind with the word of God, every time you're meditating on that word, so what are your thoughts, your actions, and the whole person comes out from where your mind is. Most of the things we are doing is how our minds thinks. You can be what your mind thinks you can. Yes.
Can be what your mind thinks.
Yes.
And Paul, just to add on what Florence John has actually put, maybe someone would therefore want to ask, what is it that therefore as a person you will use to control your mind therefore on what is it that maybe you should do and what is it that you should not do?
Well, it's important to understand that as believers, we have one source of inspiration, and that is the Word of God. We have to feed our mind with the Word of God. There is no shortcut about it. There are two things here: the Word of God and prayer. Because what prayer does is that it is going to sanctify your mind. And the Word of God is going to empty out any trash. Remember, the mind has got three parts, three components, which you must take care of. There is a concept of the conscious part of your mind, which contains the five senses. The sense of sight, sense of hearing, sense of smell, and such. There is also now the subconscious, which is the part of your mind which can cause you to take an action even without critically thinking about it. And there is also now the unconscious part of your mind, which is now the storage. Meaning, if you are not prayerful, if your life is not built on the foundation of prayer, the things that you'll be thinking, they are going to affect all the three parts of your mind. So your actions, your sense of touch and everything will be inclined toward things which are evil. It therefore means it's very important to be prayerful as a Christian and to read the Word of God and to make sure, because as human beings you'll always be tempted maybe to listen to something that is going to defile you. The sense of hearing is, I'm trying to imagine a situation whereby I'm in a matatu and they have just played a song,
a secular song,
for that matter.
And when they play it, it's coming to your mind.
It's coming to my mind.
So at that particular point, you don't necessarily have that control?
At that particular point, of course, you may not have control because it's difficult to tell the driver to switch off the radio.
Yes.
And it's also not possible to cover your ears. And that one may put you in a dilemma. So the best thing to ensure, when you alight from that car, make it a habit to create an environment, even as you travel in a car. Be a person of worship. Keep on meditating the Word of God. Let your mind be full of the Word of God. Even as you are playing those songs. Sometimes they mount even screens in matatus and buses, which we use as Christians. And you are there with your salvation, wondering now what am I going to do? And they have put songs of people who are almost half naked. The best thing to do is to create an environment whereby you are just meditating on the Word of God, whispering worship songs as you continue. To make sure that you work on your inner being, to cleansing yourself. So two things: prayer. And the Word of God. They are very important to guard your mind.
Absolutely fantastic. Our dear viewer, right here on MBCI TV, the program is Ask the Ministers of God. And we are talking about the interrelationship of the mind, the heart, the soul, and even the spirit, and how they affect you as a Christian, what you need to know as far as they are concerned. To help us navigate through this particular conversation, I'm having Evangelist Paul and also Minister Florence John. We want to take a short break at this particular point. Don't go far away. We are coming back with plenty more.